G'day Dark Realmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again. If this is your first time to the diaries, hit that subscribe button to make sure you get the best in movie, TV, book and trivia from the world of horror, okay? And today, Dark Realmers, we're going to be looking at a movie called The Silent Ones from 2014. Let's get started. Okay, Dark Realmers, The Quiet Ones was made in 2014, okay, and the basic plot surmise is that Professor Joseph Copeland, played by Jared Harris, believes that there's no such thing as possession and entities and so forth, and he believes that all demonic possession and things being thrown around the room, all that sort of thing is a manifestation of just an energy people have inside. And he believes that if they can release this, they will get rid of their mental illness, okay? And their psychosis and all that sort of thing. Now, just my first little rant, okay? Once again, at the beginning of this movie, we're given the based on actual events tagline, okay? Well, I did the research and I found out that the only real thing in the movie is that the producers used the premise of the experiment, because in the movie, Professor Copeland has invited a group of students to help a young girl called Jane Harper, and she believes that she's possessed by this evil doll called Evie or Evie, and that's where all her anger and psychic throwing things around comes from. And she has no memory of her past, okay? And she's been shunted from foster home to foster home. So the premise is really good, okay? And like I said, I get really frustrated with Hollywood when they, clickbait and say based on true events, and the only true event in this movie was the actual premise of the experiment. Everything else is fiction, okay? Now, having spoiled it for you like that, Dark Realmers, I'm sorry, okay, but I needed to get that off my chest. One day, Hollywood's going to find itself hoisted on its own petard by keep proclaiming that these are based on true events, and they take maybe, a person or a singular event and blow it all out of proportion. Okay, I can understand that. It's good. It's good marketing. It's good for business. And let's face it, we'd like to think Hollywood's there to entertain us, and it's not. It's there to make money. It's like any business, okay? But the one thing you shouldn't do is really piss off your customer base, okay? And Hollywood will end up doing that if they keep trying this based on real event stuff, okay? Anyway, in the movie, Professor Copeland invites a young, sort of a little bit of an introvert student, what's his name? Oh, Brian McNeil, sorry, to come and film him with this experiment, trying to cure Jane Harper. And he's basically there to film any paranormal events, anything out of the ordinary that can't be explained. And there are two other students there too. There's Harry Abrams, and there's what's the name? Chris Dalton. And Harry basically, he records and monitors all the, what do you call it? The graphs and stuff like that, okay? So he records all that sort of stuff. And Chrissy, well, she just doesn't seem to do anything except throw in some sarcastic comments, smoke lots of ciggies, and basically shag Harry. Okay, now into the plot, young Brian falls in love with Jane, and the way they're curing Jane is really, it's almost like torture. They, she's kept away. She's in this room where she doesn't have any furniture, or, well, you can understand that if she's throwing it around, I suppose. But, it's almost like a prison cell. And so we get lots of things where Jane is, seen to be using this power, or the doll is. Now, Professor Copeland gives her a doll, and he wants her to channel all her power into this doll. And, he seriously believes that he'll be able to cure her illness and resolve her past issues and all that sort of thing. Okay, now that's a really good story premise, okay? But the trouble is, the movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It's almost like a mashup between The Exorcist and Paranormal Activity. We keep getting jump scares of, something's there. Oh no, it's not, it's just someone behind you. And we get, lots of footage. Oh my God, what's happening? Okay. And we get, then it breaks for this relationship type building where, the characters try and be interesting and they're not. I mean, Chrissy's pretty ordinary, not really likeable actually, okay? And we get that from the first line where she says, oh, the professor was going to use me, but he found someone better who's more psychotic or more, has more psychosis. And you think, oh, charming. And she says to Brian at one stage, please, don't be negative. Don't throw negative comments around. You destroy the constructive energy. And we find out a lot more. And then the film changes tact because we've seen movies of Professor Copeland trying to help in a similar case with a young boy who also said there was someone, Mr. Gregor, who came and did things and so forth. And he was treating this young boy until his mother, who was fairly religious, stopped the treatment. Now, I can't tell you what the relationship is there and why the treatment stopped, because it's part of the plot, okay? But into this mix of, shock, horror, bumpy camera sort of thing, we find Brian, desperately, he wants to take Jane away and be the hero and everything like that. And there are more reasons why Professor Copeland wants this experiment to continue, okay, Dark Realmers? And that's the problem with the film. It goes from, okay, this is a scientific experiment that's being conducted in 1974, okay, to ancient Babylon and mysterious symbols, and oh my God, it's not like we thought it was. And it's just annoying because, okay, I can understand when a movie combines two different elements and mashes them together and makes one great plot, but this doesn't do it, okay? It basically goes from one scenario to another. And what was really annoying was obviously the most interesting character out of a fairly uninteresting bunch was, Jared Harris, who played Professor Copeland. And his character, though, was very laid back, and he'd quote some sort of, line about human evolution or, people, we're not as well advanced as we think, and my experiments will cure mental illness for all time, and rah rah rah. Then when the truth about Jane Harper comes out, it changes completely. It becomes almost, because he's a psychiatrist, or he did practice psychiatry and had an interest in abnormal psychology and psychiatric treatment, he almost becomes the mad scientist version of one of those. You will not take her away, I won't let you. And it's like, oh, please, and he's battling Brian at every turn. And when they do end the experiment, all the students walk away because scary, horrible stuff has been happening. You think, okay, well, we're coming to the end of the... No, we're not coming to the end of the movie, Dark Realmers, because, something happens to Chrissy and, Brian, you think, he's rescued Jane, it's all going to be lovely and wonderful, and we've discovered what, this horrible secret about Professor Copeland. No, things are happening again, but it's now based not on... Jane, it's based on some Babylonian cult that worship demons and so forth, and it's just a mess, okay? Now, my gripe with movies like this is that, as I said, if you take one area, you can successfully combine it with both, as long as both elements are given equal treatment in terms of script and dialogue and character development, and this just doesn't happen in this movie, Dark Realmers. We basically, like I said, there's a lot of scenes of scary footage or supposedly scary footage, and then Brian does all this research and then suddenly, oh my god, it's a Babylonian cult involved, and it's like, there was no hardship in him discovering this, really interesting information that was, thousands of years old. He went to the library and just, looked up old clippings and on microfiche and stuff like that. And there was like no tension there because he basically does his research and then he says, look, this is what I've discovered. We have to stop this straight away. And it's like, I would have been more impressed if he had to, if there was some sort of tension there, Dark Realmers. If he, been racing against time because Jane was dying, or, Jane's powers were, throwing things at him while he was trying to discover this, it would have been great. But, just going to the library and, hey, there you go. This is what I found out. This is what her strange mark on her tattoo means and so forth like that. So, like I said, Dark Realmers, it's got its moments, okay, but the trouble is it uses a lot of, camera footage and jump cuts to try and scare the audience, and you can only do that so much, okay, you really can. Paranormal Activity, of course, did it basically, for the whole movie, but that was the premise. It stuck to that. It stuck to, people filming what was around them and what evil thing was there. But from this we get jump cut, then dialogue, then character development, then it goes off track, and then Professor Copeland starts, a new experiment and so forth. So it's a cheap thrill. It's a really cheap thrill, Dark Realmers, and basically, I was upset with the movie because, A, there was very little in the way of character development. Like I said, Chrissy was... I just didn't really care about her. And when something nasty happens to her, she doesn't die, so there's no spoilers there. I didn't really care. Because she didn't do anything or actively do much within the group. Harry... had his moments. I mean, he was very competent and so forth, but Brian was the odd one out. He was the introvert. He was the one who sort of didn't fit in with the group, okay? And it, the dialogue between him and Professor Copeland, where they have a clash of wills about what Jane is and what she can do, it didn't come off really well, Dark Realmers. Now, like I said, there are moments of scaring here where you see Jane do some horrible things, or whatever's possessing her does horrible things, and you see detention when, you know, they try and help her and that sort of thing. But no, I'm sorry, it's not something engaging. And this is only the second movie in recent times where I've actually been checking my phone during the movie and just glancing up, because you can basically take it all in like that. It's not riveting in any way, shape or form, Dark Realmers. And I hate to say that because it did have a huge amount of potential, okay? Now, the movie did fairly well, but I think that was based on the shock horror value rather than, you know, great plot, great characters, and that sort of thing that you need in a good movie. So that's my review of The Quiet Ones. Now, it's available on Netflix. It's also available on DVD. Okay, and if you want to know more about the cast or the crew, check out the International Movie Database, okay, which is huge. It's a fantastic website where you can find movies, find out how much they grossed, you know, fascinating trivia, goofs that appeared, you know, things that shouldn't have appeared in the movies. Okay, I'll leave the link for you down there, Dark Realmers. Okay, now if you just want a cheap thrill while you're sitting there on a weekend and you're bored, yeah, go for this, but don't expect great characters, great plot development, or something that's, you know, is really cohesive in terms of what it tries to achieve, okay? So that's it, Dark Realmers. Look, I really don't think you need to stay in the light for this one, but I'll say it anyway, so stay in the light, Dark Realmers. If you've liked this review, please give us a thumbs up, okay? That's greatly appreciated. If you've seen the movie yourself, what did you think? Okay, and has this tempted you to maybe see it and see if I was a bit too harsh in my criticism? Okay, let me know too. And don't forget, as I said at the beginning, hit the subscribe button for more great content where I'll be doing more movie reviews, more book reviews, some trivia, a whole heap of stuff from the world of horror. So until next time, Dark Realmers, stay in the light and happy viewing, and I'll check you again next time. Bye for now.